Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Art of Creation show. I am your host, Rebecca Boswell, and today we are, as always, going to look at different possibilities for creating a life and a living that can actually work for you, whatever that is. And so today we are joined by special guest, Heather Wylde. She is a devastation transmutation coach. So like right then and there, like you can be prepared. We have some juicy yumminess to explore today. And she actually works with women predominantly who have had cancer or gone through some sort of adversity or trial of life. And what I just absolutely adore about Heather is that she really is she's creating change in the world. And the way that she is playing in that arena is to really look at where adversity can be a point of view. And so we can either allow it to pull us backwards or keep us in the past, or even, as she's mentioned before, be a death sentence, right? Or it can fuel your future. It can be a catalyst for creating something even greater. And that is actually our topic for today. Hi, Will. That is actually our topic for today, using adversity to create a better life. So, Heather, without any further ado, we're so excited to have you here today, and welcome.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thanks for having me. Really excited to come on and just hopefully if anybody's going through something right now, to give them a little bit of hope, to give them a lot of hope actually, and for anybody who's just walked through something, where I like to meet people is when you've kind of come out of it, and that can be the hardest part because as things get back to normal, the people around you can look and say, oh, well, now you're fine.
Yeah.
And often for people, it's almost when you're the least fine, because now whatever is done is behind you. Now you're supposed to get back to the business of normal everyday living.
Yeah.
And yet you're a different person.
Yeah.
You've gone through this trial. You're stronger. You have different perspectives on life. And often, you've been trying so hard for so long to just get back to normal. And you get there and there's a part of you that thinks that you should just be, grateful. And it's almost more soul crushing because you realize that you're still not, you're okay,
Yeah.
but you're still not feeling comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's because your identity has really changed, like who you are, what you value has often really changed. And
Yeah.
often the life that used to fit you like a glove,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, the people that are around you just don't feel like quite the right fit. The job that you're in isn't the right fit. Maybe the relationship you're in isn't the right fit. Yeah, and it's very disconcerting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you I love that you've shared openly and about your journey. And one of the things that you said is that you were doing all the right things, all the things that you were supposed to be doing, but that you basically had turned your back on your dreams, and that when you actually were diagnosed with cancer, that it actually, instead of blowing up your life and going into devastation, it actually got you to look at what you wanted to create from there, right? If we create sickness and we're in sickness, whatever it was we were doing before that, maybe, yeah, wasn't a great fit. So we have all this information, our body's saying, hey, this isn't working for me.
Right.
Right. And now we have this new thing. And so what I hear you saying is it's like you want to get back to normal, which, we usually think is how things were. But really, it's just we want to get to where we're feeling vital and have our energy. And so when we start to feel that vitality again, feel that energy again, have access to more of our vitality, all of a sudden there's a mismatch with the people around us because they are part of the life that created what we already have gone through. So one of the things that you talk about, which I find really fascinating, and I was hoping you could talk about it with us today,
Hmm.
is you've used the term burn victims, right? That you work with burn victims, and I love your levity and your mischief, and the way that you look at the world, and you've explained, this is where you've been forged by fire, right? You've walked
Hmm.
through the flames, and then you emerge as your phoenix goddess, right?
Hmm.
So I was wondering, could you tell us a little bit more about that, and what that means for people who maybe are going through a situation right now where they are faced with health conflicts, internally, externally, with people in their lives. Um, what can you share with us so that we can get into that way of looking at this as a journey?
Yeah, no, I'd love to. So let me kind of go back a little bit, into kind of setting the stage for when I was diagnosed. So I I used to lead a life that was very free, and I was very out, and I was very open about the things that made me different. And that felt really good in a lot of ways, but the way that I was doing it wasn't really healthy. It was almost like an armor. Like I would tell people things about me, but it was to scare them off, and I was being honest, but it was to scare them off. And then I couldn't get my big dream of being a coach to work. I actually worked with with a business coach, or not a career coach, and she's the one that turned me onto the path of coaching. And one of the things that she told me is, you can't work for a corporation. And I said, yeah, I mean, I could if I had to. And she said, no, it will eat your soul. And I said, okay. And so I went to coaching school, and I started trying to live my coaching dream. I really wanted to, have a freedom-based business. I wanted to have something meaningful. Wanted to have a life of purpose. And I couldn't figure it out, and I got so frustrated. And, my family, they were like, maybe you should just go, work for a good company and get some benefits, and, yada yada. And so I finally just kind of gave up, and I said, okay, I'm just going to go the normal route. I'm going to go work for this corporation. So I started working for the corporation. Um, a About a year and a half later, my dad came out with this mysterious illness and wound up being hospitalized the first time for 3 weeks. And he was diagnosed with this rare autoimmune disorder. So I had been on a path to a new business, and had my life in the city, and suddenly had to move back home to like a small Georgia town, to take care of my dad. And this autoimmune disorder that he has is really tricky. So they have to go through all these different types of treatments. And so it was constantly back and forth to doctors, constantly back and forth to hospitals, constantly back and forth to, okay, we're trying something new. Oh, it's working now. Oh, that's great. And then it stops working, a few weeks later. So that was the stage of everything that was going on. And we actually had him kind of in an upswing. And so we're thinking, okay, we can run with this. Everything's going to be okay. And then I got diagnosed with cancer. And
Wow.
so yeah, it was about 4 months after he was first diagnosed with his autoimmune disorder that I got diagnosed with breast cancer. And I, in the beginning, like I was really angry, but I didn't give myself really time to feel anything, because I was too busy taking care of my dad. I was trying to create another business. I'd given up on coaching, but I was trying to I had created this other business, and I was trying to get that started, while commuting 100 miles a day, to a job.
Wow.
And yeah, it was
You wouldn't
really,
want to go
really,
back.
no, no, I wouldn't want to go back to that. So the whole time leading up to me having surgery, and, they were like, oh, we're going to have to do a mastectomy. That's the least radical thing we can do. And I'm like, what the hell? That's the least radical thing you can do. Um, and that was really challenging for me, because I really am a strong believer in natural medicine. That's what I've been using for years. And it's helped me in so many ways that conventional medicine hasn't been able to help me, but it didn't help with this. So I was having to submit to, all these chemicals and stuff I didn't like. Like I was really pissed off, but I wasn't letting myself feel any of it. And the night before my surgery, which is almost a year ago today, it was June 13th last year, I finally let myself cry.
Oh.
And I had backed it up so much, I had to watch Still Magnolias to make myself cry.
That is a gateway to tears. Yes.
Oh gosh. And so, so I finally cried, and, I have the surgery, and there was a chance that all I was going to have was surgery, or maybe surgery and like a little bit of radiation. And, pathology results back, and I realized that it was almost worth having cancer to not go back to the job I was working, because it really,
Wow, that's huge
yeah.
information.
Yeah, I was working as a leasing consultant, and I I have very high standards for my integrity. And if I don't feel like I can be 100% honest with people, it doesn't feel good. And there were many times that I could not be honest with people, and it really was just gross. It was really gross. And I'm not saying that that's every apartment complex or every leasing consultant. I'm just saying that this was my experience in this one place. And so, yeah, I knew that I disliked the job, but I didn't know that I hated it that much until I was like, wow, I'm missing a boob and some lymph nodes. And so I would still rather be on my couch dealing with this than going back to that job. So,
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, when we really look at, what do we create, and what's right about this that maybe we're not getting, right? The gifts and the garbage, and sometimes it can be quite a bit of garbage. But that was huge information.
huge. And, I mean, and I found that to be true. Like often, like I've been unhappy with situations, and for whatever reason, I call it painting myself in an imaginary corner with invisible paint. Like I love to trap myself for some reason. I don't know what that's about. I think Will's watching. I was actually doing some of his clearing loops.
That's awesome. Yeah, we see you, Will. We're excited that you're here. And actually, we're going to have Will Carlos is going to be our guest next Friday. So excited to have your face up on the screen next week. And for those of you watching, if there's anything that you'd like to ask Heather or any comments, please feel free to put them in, and we will keep monitoring those. So if there's something you'd like to add or something that you're wondering, please feel free to jump in through the comments. So you had all of a sudden, you had this big aha moment. And
Had a big aha moment.
yeah, and then at what point was it that point, or was there a different point where all of a sudden you realized, okay, wait a minute, this is where my life begins anew now. This
Right.
is where I choose something different. This is where I create a different reality. Like, at what point did that start showing up, and what was that like for you?
Yeah, so that's the next part. So often, especially with medical stuff, I find that like you get some bad news and you kind of like you're like, oh, that sucks, and then you start to adjust to it, and then you get more bad news, and that's how this was. And so when they got my pathology report, they came back, and it was they thought that it was stage 0 cancer. It was stage 3 breast
Okay.
cancer, and I definitely was going to have chemo. And I went through a really, really dark time for about a month. I had started with a therapist, and who specialized in medical stuff, and she was all but having to talk me off of ledges. Like the scared part of me that was just so terrified of chemo was like, I would almost rather die than have these chemicals put in my body, So that was really tough. And I cried a lot. I had to give myself permission to cry. This was a part of like my burning, but also a part of my growth, of that, being made stronger. I had to let myself cry in front of people, which has always been really hard, and let myself, tell people like I'm scared. Like,
Yeah.
that just has always been really difficult for me. So once I found out that I had to have chemo, and at first, just kind of dealt with the like devastating thing of that. Then I started thinking, and I'm like, the life that I was leading before, I've got great friends. I had a job with benefits. Have great family. I was making progress on some things, so it wasn't that it was all terrible, but the life I was leading before was not worth going through cancer treatment for. It was like, if I've got to go through all this just
Yeah.
to go back to that, shoot me now.
Yeah.
Like, no, hell no,
Yeah.
not just no, but hell no.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, so that's where you started to see like these external things, and even burning off, like burning off the relationships, the habits, behaviors, patterns, career choices that you were making, to allow what was actually there to start coming back out, or to come out more fully. So burning all that away, right? I know it can be kind of frightening, because then you're just like this little, I mean, I know it's not this way, but in The Little Mermaid, where when Ursula, the sea witch, takes the souls and they become those little like worm sprouts or whatever in her little cave. It's like sometimes that energy can feel like we're that, right?
Right.
But it's this big lie. It's this big lie, because that's actually not what we are. That's actually not even a fraction of the energy that we be, and what's possible for us. Hi, Jenny. Hi, Brandy. Hi, Nancy. But sometimes we can get stuck in that lie, that perception that is what our reality is, or that's all that's left, right? When everything else burns away and you just have like this little thing. And then what you're saying is, from there, you have the possibility of reemerging from the ashes. And I love this visual even of the Phoenix goddess. So can you tell me a little bit more about the Phoenix goddess and some of your, what was it that you chose, or what are some of the things that assisted you in both choosing that path and also emerging with your full power?
So I've been a student of personal development, I don't know, since college. And so I just started drawing on, some of my tools, and things just started coming up to like be resolved. And so I have a process for helping people to process negative emotions. And I had like a lot of shame and guilt around some things. So I sat down and I did that process to forgive myself. And later that day, my dad and I got in an argument, which is very rare. Like we're very similar creatures. Like we don't really have a lot to argue about. And I was able to apply my tools of responding instead of reacting, and actually heal something from our relationship and hear an apology from him. Like I forgave myself earlier in the day, and then he apologized to me later that day about something. So that was kind of magical. And so I just kept looking for opportunities to grow. Like I didn't have to go to work. I wasn't having to do that god awful commute. I had some time, to sit down and kind of explore some things. I think that had helping me. Well, they were fueling the invisible paint in the imaginary corner. Fueling, keeping me trapped, and that's what I really love to do. Like a lot of people think, and for a long time I thought that it was all about the external. It's like, okay, I'm not happy with my life. Well, what do I need to do? Oh, I need to go exercise. I need to lose weight. I probably need to date. I need a new job. I need, all this stuff.
Yeah, who is all that belong to anyway?
Right. And well, but I think that you can be aware that that things
Yeah.
aren't a good fit and make those changes. But the mistake that I made for so long, that I see a lot of people making, is not trying to change the inner world.
Yeah.
because if you still have those same thoughts and beliefs and, you're carrying shame and guilt and anger and all this stuff, it's going to, you might be able to make some headway toward all those goals, but it's going to be, let's see if I can say this right, Sisyphean, the,
Yeah.
the pushing the
Yeah.
boulder
Sisyphus.
up.
Yes.
Sisyphus.
And it
Yes.
keeps and it keeps rolling down
And it
just as
goes
you think
falling
you've gotten
down.
to the top.
Yeah, and it's like you're making progress, but it's like you're walking through 3 feet of curing cement to
Yeah.
do so, like
Yeah.
because you're being held back by all these beliefs and all of
Hmm.
this, just ick. And so what I really love doing with people is I only work with people who are excited about doing the inner work as well as the outer work. Because
Yeah.
you, on the other hand, you can sit around and you can meditate all day. You can do, your energy clearings and all of that stuff is super powerful. But if you don't take action to
Yeah. In
make
the
things
outer world.
happen, then
Yeah.
nothing happens. So that's
Yeah.
that's one of the requirements for people to work with me. I have to know, not just hear them say it. I have to really see that they're willing
Yeah.
to sit down, put pen to paper, do what's necessary to change themselves on the inside and free themselves so that everything else becomes a lot easier. And
Yeah.
then a lot of the time too, when you start clearing out that stuff, you find that, like you said, who does that belong to? You might find that, this goal, this dream that you held so dear was actually something that your mother really wanted for you. But you weren't really free to see that because you had so much internal, stuff going on. So I really love one of the gifts of going through one of these trial by fires, and I've talked to women who have literally had their houses burned down and then their health go to shit. Women who, they've gone through a divorce, but somehow 6 years later, there's still like lingering madness, from
Yeah.
it. I talk to people, who have been caretakers for parents who've, died. I mean, there's all sorts of things that can really, you never know what's going to happen in life,
Yeah.
um, but the commonality is that it kind of tears you down to your foundation, you
Mm.
know, and you can look at that and say, okay, everything's gone. This sucks. Or you can look at it and say, okay, I've got a clean slate.
Yes. Yes. And that really, I get, is such a huge gift of what you offer with your clients. And, you know, it's also really tricky, right? I mean, there is a shift. So there are amazing people who will on their own say, hey, I want to grow from this challenge, and then come find you. And then there are a lot of people out there who may be going through an adversity and haven't even considered the possibility that it could be something that could be transformed into something greater.
Right.
So when you're out in the world and you're speaking with people, what are do you have any, what do you what do you say to people? Because I know if someone is really in the throes of something that they are perceiving as god awful,
Mm-hmm.
right? Sometimes, if we come in and we say, hey, this could be a gift, how do you want to catalyze this for change, use this as a catalyst for a better life or creating something greater, you might get a middle finger or worse, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, how do we begin to have this conversation, even like for people maybe who are watching who know or have loved ones who are in something like this, who maybe are not ready to hear, or right, how do we begin having these conversations with ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and with those that we love or that we care for, to begin introducing this possibility without them feeling like we're not seeing, it's like people
Right.
want you to see the reality that they're in. And so we want to honor and acknowledge that that's where they are. And then
Sure.
how do we at the same time begin to expand their sense of possibilities, to be able to then live beyond it?
So, the this has been a very hard truth for me to internalize. When you're dealing with someone else's pain, you have limited power over what you can do for someone else, right?
Yeah.
If you're someone who is going through something and you're like, I'd love to be able to see this point of view that this could be a blessing, but I just don't know how. I had to go through being really, really, really effing angry. Like, I was so pissed. The first day that I showed up for chemo, actually, I told my nurse, I said, I am so effing pissed that I'm here. And I said, I just want you to know that I'm not mad at you. And I'm really sorry that you have to deal with it this way, but I am just so mad.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, thank you, for but she's like, oh, we get it, honey, it's okay. And I said, no, it's really not, because this is not your fault. And I want you to know I recognize that. But I'm just really mad. And so I just gave myself permission to
Yeah.
not, not be strong, and to not be happy, and to not be, rose colored glasses. And because I was able to get it out,
Yeah.
but I wasn't doing that on my own. I went to a therapist who specialized in medical, people with medical problems. And I was talking to her, and, talking to somebody is not enough. You've got to be honest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I did have a really great support network. I've done a really good job of weeding out negative people in my life in the last few years, and so I had a lot of good support, and that was good. And people were trying to be positive, but they weren't trying to shove it down my throat. You definitely don't want to shove your positivity down someone's throat. Like, the best thing you can probably do for someone if you're watching them really suffer is to just give them permission. Like, I don't, maybe I don't understand what you're going through because I've never been through it, but I know you've got to be hurt. I know you've got to be angry. You may be scared. Say that, do that, right? And then one of the synchronicities that kind of led me back to coaching was I saw I saw a thing for a free session with Will Carlos,
Yeah.
and and so I was like, oh, free energy healing session, that could be cool right now. And I remember he asked me, he said, what do you want to get out of this session? And I just said, I just want to be able to get through this chemo thing with some grace and some ease. And so we did the session, and I felt a little different afterwards. And then I just kind of forgot about it. Well, the second time I went into chemo, they were like, oh, are you still mad? And I said, you know what? I'm 80% less mad than I was last time. I'm still 20% mad. That's just, that was just how I felt. But it was funny too. I like to make people laugh. And so, and somebody tried to tell me, they're like, oh no, you need to just be, 0% mad. You need to be 100% okay. And I said, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm 20% mad. I think dropping 80% of the anger in the last month is huge.
Yeah.
And I think, everything that I was doing, and hats off, to Will as well, because I talked to him a few months later, and I was almost done with chemo, and I really had gotten through it with grace and ease by that point. And he read the note back to me, and I was like, oh my God, that is what I asked for. And
Mm-hmm.
that's, so I think that you have to give yourself permission to feel as shitty as you feel as angry as you feel, and get it out in healthy ways.
Mm-hmm.
One of my coaching clients talks about, there's a damn it doll. Have you ever heard of a damn it
Yes,
doll?
they're fabulous.
I had never heard of
Damn it,
it.
damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it.
Yeah, so it's, for anybody you don't know, it's like this cloth doll, and I think it's got a little heft to it, like a little bit of weight,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe beans in it or something.
Yeah.
And you can beat it, you can throw it against the wall, and it makes like a satisfying thump, but you're not really hitting anything, you're not hurting anything. When I quit smoking, I used a plastic bat on my furniture a lot, and it sounded like I was killing something, so it really helped with like Nick rages. But whatever you have to do, like get it out, because you're not going to be able to get to that positive until you
Yeah.
got the negative out. Or you can
Yeah.
pretend to be positive, but it's going to feel icky. It's not going to be,
Yeah.
it's not in alignment with where you really are. And I credit going through that shitty period and letting myself just be shitty but at the same time, you be shitty, but don't take it out on people.
Yeah.
Like, don't, whatever you're going through, this person,
Yeah.
your family and friends did not burn your house down. Your doctor did not give you cancer. Your nurses did not, give you
Yeah.
Lyme's disease or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, don't be shitty to people, but allow yourself to just go through that and,
Yeah.
and get it out, so that
Yeah.
then you can start to see that different perspective.
Yeah. Well, and that's where really, I mean, I know you talk a lot about having integrity between your internal and external environments, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
also includes your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions with the choices that you're making out in the world, what you're inviting out in the world. But I love that, the fact that you are just so willing to be so vulnerable. And when I hear from you, from when I see comments from your clients and people that play with you, I really see that one of the big gifts that you be in the world is, you're willing to be vulnerable. You're willing to be honest with yourself and with those, that you're playing with, and just say, like, it doesn't have to look great, right? And it doesn't have to be significant, but you also don't have to stick it away somewhere. You don't have to make it good for anybody else. And, really stepping into your power, because I know that's another thing that you really play with, is stepping into your own power. And part of that is owning all of your bits, even the shitty ones. And like whatever that is. And when I hear you talk about it, I mean, I get that you're just referring to like when it didn't feel so great, right? Like this does not ease in my body. It doesn't feel great in my head and my being, whatever, right? And it's like, I know something else is possible. But being able to go through this with your clients and to really, yes, give them permission, offer them the space for them to fully explore, what are they being, and, what are they choosing, and, is it working? And if it is,
Right.
great. And sometimes feeling shitty it is working, like
Right.
that's where they are ready to be right now. And, but then also introducing different possibilities for where, maybe just for today, what would it be like to play with something different, or what would it be like to look at, where are you growing? You don't have to give up any of the shittiness. You don't have to give up any of the pain. You don't have to give up any, whatever it is that you're doing. You don't have to give it up, but like, would you be willing to also look at some of this too and add it, and then,
Right.
see how then that can start, moving the wheels a
Right.
little bit more until there's more momentum, to create something totally different.
Right.
So is there anything else that you want to share about this idea of creating more integrity between the internal and external environment?
Well, I mean, it's been so key for me to do this. And the other key for me, but I'm a personal development geek, is to look at, I love learning about different tools and processes, right? And it's important to find what works for you, right? It's important to find, you know, nothing will work until you find what works for you. And
Yeah.
my success has been because my success in healing myself from so much of my tragedy resume is that I just have been determined,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go try therapy. Okay, that kind of worked, but it didn't work as well as I wanted it to, or it didn't get rid of everything. Okay, I'm going to go try 12-step. I'm going to try a different therapist. I'm going to go to coach. And everything that I've done has moved,
Yeah.
has had an effect.
Yeah.
And I'll keep doing that until I find something that, something else
Yeah.
that I try.
Yeah.
And that's the key. Like, you really can change this stuff. You really can get rid of a lot of the ick that's holding you back. But
Yeah.
it's a matter of being determined and looking for the right tools and processes. And one of the great things that I bring as a coach is that I know so many different tools and processes
Yeah.
that I can find. Like, if you tell me, hey, this isn't working, I'm gonna say, okay, well, how can we tweak it? Or I'll pull another tool out of my bag, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of the worst experiences I ever had with a coach. He had one tool for helping you release stuff,
Oh boy.
and he explained it in very esoteric, like, and I was like, look, I feel like you're talking to a Jedi. I need you to talk to me like I'm a Padawan, like I
Yes.
because but I couldn't get it. And that was his only tool, right? And I love playing with tools, and I recognize that everybody has different ways that our minds work, and it's really interesting to figure that out. And
Yeah.
so, you know, don't give up. Keep trying. Allow yourself to feel your feelings,
Yeah.
but keep doing things to get out of it, right? And if what you're doing is working and you're seeing some change, great. If not, then you need to look for other things. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so much out there.
Yeah, and there's so much information that I think, people are like, well, I have to find like the one thing, like, I have to find that perfect thing. And then it gets so overwhelming because there's so much out there. And I love what you're pointing at here, because really what I hear you saying is that everything on our journey gives us another piece. And so it doesn't always look like this linear path. I did this program and then I was healed, right? It's like, it's very spherical. It's very seemingly chaotic, but you get all the pieces that you require if you're willing to receive that and to integrate it and to know what you know, right? Like, that thing, I know you work a lot too with your intuition and asking yourself, okay, yes or no, or, like, show me, right? And
Right.
and so, knowing that you can use that too to say, okay, look, this is great. It's wonderful that I have all this information. I don't need to apply all of it. There is no
No.
one right thing.
No.
And I can also ask for those pieces that are going to actually contribute to me and my growth and what I'm asking to create now moving forward to show up with total ease, right? We've talked about this before. The teacher arrives when the student is ready. And it's the same thing, I believe, with tools, with information, with different energy forms. And so just being willing to open. And when you're talking about your vulnerability and just about letting everything fall, I think that's when we're in that space where if we really can allow ourselves to be that vulnerable, be that open, be that unguarded, we can hear and receive and perceive and know what's available to us that's for us now. With so much more ease and even a little bit of joy and maybe even some fun.
Oh yeah, definitely. You want to. I'm such a fun and playful person, but in my own growth, like I'll get so serious. So
Yeah.
that's something that I have to kind of watch with myself. But because I know you've called me on it, Will has called me on it as well. But yeah. Oh gosh, there went my train of thought.
I hear you. I always have trains coming and going from the station. No worries.
Oh, I do know what I wanted to say though. That's one of the reasons why. One of the other places that I've caught up. Like I'll learn about a tool, and then there's no accountability for me to use it, and a lot of times, like, it's uncomfortable processing this stuff. I'm not gonna pretend that it's a party. Like, doing this work a lot of times it can be really uncomfortable, and so I'll read something great in a book and I'll be like, oh, I should do that, and I'll sit down and I'll kind of half-ass do it. Where I've gotten my most growth is having a one-to-one mentor or coach who's really not only, well, for one thing, holding me accountable. Like, if I know I'm going to talk to you on Tuesday, if I don't get the work done all week long, I'm going to get it done Monday night. you know and so that has really helped my growth is actually finding and hiring mentors and coaches. The other thing is that especially if you're newer, well, even if you're not, because I mean, like I said, I've been doing this for like over 20 years in the personal development stuff, and there's still perspectives that other people bring that I haven't heard yet. But it's really powerful when you have somebody who really is familiar with a number of different tools
Yes.
and ways of helping you, because then that person can help you find the stuff that
Yes.
really works. It saves you a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of aggravation,
Yeah.
because you've got somebody who's like, you know what, I think this will be really good for you. What do you think? Okay, great. Do we need to tweak that? Okay, let's do it. And then having that
Yeah.
accountability to actually do the work.
So, Heather, I would love to know, for anybody who's been watching today or has a loved one who could benefit from your services, how can people find you And what are some of the offers that you have out now that they could choose? And I'll put links to all of this in the show notes as well. So if you don't have a pen and you're watching, don't worry. I'll make sure it's in the show notes for you. So how can people connect and play with you more?
So I'm trying to do a copy and paste thing. Let's see if it's going to work. It's going to work kind of. So what I'm putting in the comments right now that will come up in a minute is the name of my Facebook group. So I have a Facebook group called the Young Cancer Survivors, Creating Lives of Purpose, Freedom, and Joy. It's probably going to be changed to just an in general survivors group because I don't just work with cancer survivors. Okay, it looks like that came up. And then right now, I do have a scheduling system. I'm not going to take the time to like put the link in and everything. If somebody just wants to private message me, I'm doing one-to-one coaching. I have a 3-hour intensive that people can purchase so that they can, and I have a workbook that I send them. And then we basically go through the entire workbook and help them start getting clear on how they've changed and what kind of life they want to lead now. So it's a good like first taste of working with me. And then I also have a 1-to-1 3-month container to really dive deep into things. So if they private message me, I'll send you the scheduling link and we can do that.
Perfect. So any of the posts all week have had Heather tagged in them. So if you're on Facebook, you can just follow that to friend her and send her a PM. And we will also have her website in the show notes, so you can find her that way if you're watching on YouTube and don't see a Facebook link. But there will also be a link to the Facebook page for the Art of Creation show. So you can always go back there if you missed all the posts from the week. So Heather, is there anything before we close? Is there anything else that you would like to share with anybody watching, whether they are currently walking through the flames or if they have a loved one who's experiencing that?
Loved one, if you have a loved one who's experiencing it, like I said, just encourage them to really and be okay with them not being okay. You know, maybe encourage them. There's all kinds of resources, especially if it is something like cancer. There's all kinds of resources for that. But, encourage them to seek out a good counselor and encourage them that if their intuition is saying that this is not the right counselor for them, find somebody else. Because it really is like you can do things on your own, but you can make so much more progress if you've got a good support network, however that looks for you. If you're currently going through things, if you're still in the kind of woe is me and the angry phase, I get it. I was there. Let yourself feel it. Get whatever help is necessary, and just know that, it's this too shall pass. I know it's annoying. I know I wanted to slap people when they said it. For the people who are just coming out on the other side of things and they're okay, but they're not okay, contact me. Contact me. I can help you get a grip on who you are and who you want to be, and this life of like meaningful connections and joy and purpose. That so many people who come out of a life trial, these burn victims come out, and their Phoenix goddess life is really about that purpose and joy and meaningful connections and adventure and just not settling. And I can help with that.
Perfect. One of the things I've heard throughout, and that I just know about you too, is one of your superpowers is curiosity. And so I know that you bring that to your sessions, and I suspect that may also be a key ingredient for all those of you watching and who are going through this. Being curious instead of just saying this is all there is.
Right.
You can look to see how the universe is actually conspiring in your favor, and find those whispers. And as you know, Heather, the more that we listen to the whispers, the louder they get until they're undeniable and, a pleasure even to follow. So, so thank you so much for putting the name of the group in there. Nancy, excellent. Yes, thank you for commenting. It is great to, especially with coaching, there are periods where we where going to a mental health counselor
Oh
is
yeah.
appropriate.
Yes.
And then yes, absolutely. Once that initial trauma, you've gone through that initial trauma, a coach, having someone to really go through that journey with you and really create the choose your own adventure with you together, is just, it's priceless. So Heather, thank you so much for
Thank you,
joining us
Rebecca.
today,
Thank
for
you.
playing and chatting, and all of you watching. Please, if this episode can contribute to anyone that please do share it. What can we create in the world by actually creating a space where it's okay to be imperfect? It's okay to have trials and tribulations. It's okay to go through adversity. Whatever we create, whatever we choose, whatever shows up, we're not bad. There's no right and wrong. There's only just more choice. And so, what gift can we be in the world to actually celebrate when there is garbage, knowing that we can actually create something greater from those ashes. So please share if there's anything here, that could assist or facilitate some change, catalyze a new possibility with your loved ones. So thank you so much, Heather. Everybody watching, we adore you. Without you, it wouldn't be quite as fun. So thanks for being here live. Also, all of you who are watching it right now, whenever that now is in the future, we adore you too. Please like the video on YouTube if you like it. If you're on Facebook, give us some likes. Ring all the bells and notification ding dongies so that you know when we're going live again or when a new video has posted, because we'd love to contribute to you again in the future. So thank you. Have a great week. And until next Friday, I wonder what we'll discover next. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.